company, and I've got my friend Tommy Horst and Hurst. I always say your name wrong until I hear you when I call you and you get your voicemail. I'm like, that's the right way to say his name. It's not Horst, it's Hurst.
I don't even hear it anymore. Yeah, it's all good.
Like my name, it's Sponcia, and people say Sponica all the time. So after a while, you're just like, whatever, it's just part of it. So no big deal. But anyhow, Tommy with ERISA Services, and I don't say this to ingratiate you, but definitely one of my favorite people and one of my favorite clients. So thanks for jumping on with us. So I would love it if you would take, just a few minutes. I think the name probably people know now more than they did, but maybe they don't really understand who you are and what you do. So tell us a little bit about your company, the background of the company. I'd love to hear about, I know it's a family business, so anything you can help people know about ERISA.
Absolutely, Paul, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the call with you today, and the feeling is mutual, my friend. So ERISA Services, third-party administrator. A third-party administrator on retirement plans is a company, and we are a company that works with the local financial advisor community, the local CPA community, to find small businesses and help them administer, implement, install retirement plans for their people, for their business owners, both as kind of tax strategies and also for wealth accumulation. My dad started us back in 1981. And so we are now, I guess there will be 39 years this coming October. Dad, we still see Dad comes in ever so often. We get a Dale sighting. My father's Dale Hurst. And we have a great time with that. I've been with my dad now for about 19 years or so. It's a family-owned company. My dad, myself, my wife, Jessica, she is our controller CFO. You've also got my sister as well. We were able to lure Tiffany into the family business a couple years ago. She previously had sales background. We've got about 40 employees, about 1,100 small business clients that we get a chance to serve. And so it's a lot of fun. We work with probably 300-400 plus financial professionals. So that's kind of the group that we probably do the most of our not marketing or sales to, but that's where the majority of our relationships are until we get to the end user, the people that we're actually jointly taking care of.
And this time of year was probably the worst time for a pandemic to happen because you are bound by an April 15th and March 15th maybe deadlines. Those are big deadlines for you. Is that right?
That is March 15th and April 15th traditionally are two really, really big ones. March 15th, you've got your tax filing deadlines, March 15th and April 15th, but there's another huge retirement plan deadline. It's a dual deadline on March 15th that small businesses have to deal with. And so, it's been quite fun challenge. Now, government did extend the April 15th deadline out to July 15th, so that's been a little bit better. But then we've obviously seen with the CARES Act that was passed, most people are focusing in on the small business loans that people can take, the payroll protection program, which is 7A or 7B on the other side. So there's definitely a lot of those things that we've been having to help our business owners with. But there's also something pretty substantial towards increased availability for hardship distributions and loan capabilities for plans that we've been having to work with our clients on. So definitely plenty going on.
Well, good. Well, I'm always interested I think it's fascinating for people to learn about businesses that exist. And I think, I'm always fascinated as a business owner who does business with companies to find, somebody does that. That's crazy. I didn't even know they did that. So it's neat to hear. So, I want to transition a little bit into, you were already, I would say, pretty forward thinking, not in relation to, I think, a pandemic necessarily, but in relation to distributing your workforce outside of the walls of your office in West Knoxville. So why did you do that? Like, what was the driver to do that? And how many people roughly did you already have doing that before all this happened?
Yeah, great question. We've got about 15 people or so that what we call our remote teleworkers, right? And we needed more bodies. We needed more help. And the talent pool in other areas compared to East Tennessee is a little bit bigger. When you get into some of these other financial areas like near Indianapolis or near New York and Chicago, some of those places, you're going to see some hubs that have the type of people that are able to help us. And so we made the decision that for the clients and the advisors that we serve here, particularly within East Tennessee, now within kind of the Midwest region and the Georgia area, that we just needed to find the best of the best. And so recruiting, that was a really big deal for us to make sure that we could take care of the people we promised to take care of. So yeah, we got about a third of our workforce that way.
Wow. And how, that's been going on. I mean, we've been working together for,
sure,
I don't know, 6 or 7 years or something or longer. And
since 2001.
That we've been working, our company, 2001 is what?
When we first had our first remote worker.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding. I had no idea. That's great. So you've been on the forefront. What do you think before this? What were some of the things that you learned or challenges that you felt like you had to overcome?
It's security. That's always, that one has just continued to grow. It's always fun trying to get people the right hardware.
Yeah.
Is always a challenge. When in an industry like what we are that was not previously really paperless, everybody's done a pretty good job over the past maybe 10 years of getting that way. But even before that, if you've got just a standalone printer versus the big printers that are available within, the majority of your offices, there's a lot of things that intricacies that come in and along through that as well. So challenges there. I think people being connected, we're all experiencing that right now working from home, and that's the beauty of Teams and the beauty of Zoom. No matter how much people are starting to get sick of those types of calls already, for somebody that's not there in the office, being connected to the team, feeling a part of the culture is a really big thing. When you feel down, a lot of times you got people that you can just walk right next door and then give you a nice pick me up. So those are certainly things that we've been seeing. So
and you did some things like you already were doing before Teams came out. You were doing Skype calls with your team. What were some of the things? I know that was one of them. Were there other things that you were doing before this to already try to engage those remote workers?
Yeah, while we had Skype capability, we still didn't use it or leverage it very much. We do a handful of team calls throughout the week, so we were doing it more by phone, by conference call, than doing the actual face-to-face, over the internet. Trying to engage as much that direction as possible. Also bringing in our remote workers at least once a year for a full kind of team experience.
Yeah.
And so we did training at least once a year to do that.
Okay. And so all of a sudden, 3 or 4 weeks ago, everything changed. Everybody started going home. We all were trying to figure this out. I've told people before, we didn't really face the issues as much around, I think, the back end. It was more of like that whole thing, like, oh, what am I going to use from home? How's that going to work? So what changed for you guys? What challenges, as that started to take place, what challenges did you face then as you went from 15 people to 40 people who are now at home?
Right. And so I'd probably answer that 2 or 3 different ways. Everybody, we've got a disaster recovery plan. You've helped us craft that. It's one thing to say you've got one. It's another one to implement it and actually test it and make sure it works. And so, while having about a third of our workforce, our team members that were fully remote, the big difference for them was just their spouses were coming home and their kids were going to be there. So for them, not total business as usual. For probably about another third of our group, maybe a little bit more, maybe our relationship managers, data analysts, our administrators, our compliance folks, they had some sense of like a dual setup already. Okay, so they were used to taking their laptop home, logging in remotely. They may even have multiple screens or printers there that they could work over the weekend just with the amount of hours that our teams have to work. So we did have another section of our employees that were used to working from home to some degree, and so that was pretty nice. The transition, though, of our last section of workers that only have ever worked within the office and that don't have laptops, don't have the screens already set up at their house, we made the decision on a Monday that by that coming Friday that we were going to have each person come in and actually take their workstations home. And so each person has their full workstation at their house with whatever they need. And so that was the decision that we made. And we had to change a lot of our processes and procedures, for some of the still paper-intensive things that we have to do relative to mailing, printing things off to get signatures. So that's changed for a lot of people, but that's kind of just a little bit brief view of what it looked like for us.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, that's something that we saw with a lot of customers. Like I said, the main issue was wasn't really like, can I get to my files, and it was like, well, I don't have a laptop, and so, well, at work I have 3 screens. How am I going to do that? That's how I operate, is being able to move things around. And so it sounds like, similar challenge that you were dealing with. That's interesting. And I would say above all, that was the one that we saw people struggle with the most, was that.
I know I don't have to do it again, but as we continue to progress, I think as we still bring on new employees, new users, things like that, I will probably transition more towards laptops instead of desktops from the get-go.
I was going to ask you, what are some of the lessons you feel like you've now?
I think that's a big one. I made some, at the time, I don't think it was a bad decision. It's certainly, cost is always something you have to take a look at, and no one ever anticipates having to do something this dramatic. But I think as we have to replace towers, we probably replace them with laptops going forward. Start to move more that direction. How long this is going to last, Paul? There's lots of varying opinions out there. I'm going to be of the tribe that plans for the worst, hopes for the best.
Yeah.
So I hope this is over within a very short period of time. But if it's not 6 months, it's not 12 months, it's not 18 months, we've still got to take care of clients. We still got to fulfill promises.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm curious, one of the things for me, and I've read some stuff about this, and I think, Tommy, you're, again, not to ingratiate you, I think you're a great leader. You carry yourself, you inspire people, care deeply for people, and you've already doing it in somewhat of a remote fashion, but now, you've had to do it in a totally remote fashion. So I wonder, how do you feel like as a leader, has anything changed? Have you changed? Is there anything you especially have grown or learned in this from a leadership perspective that you'll now apply as you go forward?
Yeah, I think 100% yes. I've got a pretty intentional routine in the mornings. I'm of the opinion that if I've got to lead myself before I can lead someone else.
Yeah.
And I have to be led by someone else. My faith. I'm a believer, as are you. So my routine there has only intensified. I think as the pressure has changed and it's more dramatic right now, I think I've found, and even over the past couple of weeks, being incredibly intentional about it, I've got to first lead myself in staying emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy, relationally healthy, physically healthy. I am no good to my team, to those that are trusting me to make good decisions and to lead them well if I'm not first doing the same for myself. This past weekend, reading a book called The Energy Bus, right? You've probably read it. It's fantastic. I was just reminded that the energy that I project to anyone, whether it's this video chat or on a phone call, has a dramatic impact on them. So I think from a leadership standpoint, I've grown a little bit there already. I would say from communication, certainly was used to leading more in person, face to face, being able to see, I feed off of people. If you're at all in sales or in leadership, you want to see the faces of the people, that when you say things that are meaningful to you, how they're reacting. And so to do that a little bit more in a vacuum, whether on conference calls, things like that, it's certainly more challenging. You've got to trust yourself more. You've got to believe in yourself and what you stand for and what you're communicating, your core values, what you're trying to do as a company, and how you serve people. It can't just be a feeling. It's got to be a bedrock truth in that type of communication. Certainly had more of an appreciation for what it's like for our remote workers, the 15 people, and what their day looks like, and not having that interaction. And you hear great people, great leaders say that you can't communicate enough. So you should over communicate, over communicate, over communicate. And I have found that especially through this, my appreciation for what that looks like is significantly more than what it was previously.
Yeah.
So,
How one thing I think about that a lot of people have said is the biggest stressor for the individual from work from home is that it's not like they're just working from home. Their spouses, their kids are
yes.
now home, and so how have you negotiated that? Because you have a family, and your wife works with you. You have young children who probably are like, they don't know the concept of dad's in the meeting. They're just like, Dad, I need your help.
My first grader just wrote me a note and put it right beside me, even while we've been on the
That's awesome.
call.
That's awesome.
It's been, I'm getting better. The past 2 weeks have been, I tell people very honestly, in 2 weeks, I've not fed my children 4 times for lunch. It's very real. Now they survived. They're 7 and 9. My daughter, who is amazing, she has not only had to homeschool herself at times, but she's also had to homeschool her first grade brother. And they've done well. They're doing better. This week, I've actually got a much better schedule. I'm taking time at 1 o'clock every day, and we're on Rosetta Stone learning Spanish together.
Cool.
And
Nice.
so having a good time with that.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a challenge. I think I've been really pleased that even within our financial sector that we work in, people are operating with a lot more mercy and grace than what was previously there. People, we're all in this together. And so I've found that, even when I need to pause for a minute and try to answer a question of a first grader, people are willing to just give me a little bit more grace in that. I'm incredibly appreciative of teachers and our school systems. My gratitude for them, I'm not a teacher. I have figured that out really quickly.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative for what they're doing and how they're doing these things. But the balance is a very real thing. It's a very, very real thing. And for the school systems that are having requirements for their parents and their kids, like on a day-to-day basis, got a couple of employees that are having to navigate their school system requirements, which I would say are significantly more stringent than what ours is doing. It's presenting a lot of stress for people. You want to try to do your best to be a good parent, take care of your kids, still navigate all of the business challenges as well. So aside from like taking care of clients, even operating a business.
Yeah.
And so you get this very well, both on the service side and the leadership side.
It's multifaceted. I mean, I think, a lot of people all of a sudden work from home and didn't realize that their kids are going to be home. I think, just took a lot of stuff for granted. So all the things we talked about, computers and desks and monitors and quiet space and, I've got kids and they have to eat lunch and my wife is here and, and I think even just bad expectations sometimes of like not saying, hey, I really need to go do this. You did a good job. You just told your kids, hey, I'm going to go do this, kind of be quiet, which is, I don't think you said it that way, but, and so, okay. So expectations, right? And I don't think a lot of people probably thought that at first. They just kind of started working from home and a lot of stress got created. And so I think, most things in life, I say all the time, fall into 2 categories. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And the second thing is setting good expectations, and so that's a big one.
Expectations too, because I think we all walked into this thinking this would be over very quickly.
Yes.
And I think we all nationwide have created a false sense of how soon this is going to end.
Yeah.
And I think that's created even more stress and more emotional fallout that when the school comes back and says, hey, it's another week, or hey, it's the end of April, or hey, you're canceled for the year.
Yeah.
I think we need to all be very careful in what type of expectations we're setting for what this looks like, knowing that there's a chance that if you put too much hope and stock in those things, that you're going to be disappointed, and that then causes more chance for emotional turmoil.
Yep. Well, man, I don't want to keep any longer. I really, really appreciate the time. I know that people will be encouraged and will learn some things from the stuff you said. So it's good to see your face and hear your voice, and I really appreciate you.
and appreciate all you guys are doing behind the scenes. I know you guys are crushed right now, and you've got an incredible team. We appreciate all they're doing for us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate your kind words. All right, man. It was good chatting with you.
You too, buddy. See ya.
See you. Bye.